Alright, so in this video we're going to go over lines and polylines mostly. And just the different ways to draw lines and the difference between lines and polylines. So first we're just going to kind of put a line in, and I'll show you the default inputs with dynamic input on. So if I put a line in, so I'm going to click on the line command. When I say click, I just mean a left click. So we're going to click on their line, and then we're going to click into the drawing here. And you'll notice real quick that it gives me the distance, and if I hit tab, you'll notice it now highlights the angle. So by going through here, I can set something to be 5 at 0 degrees and hit tab again if I really wanted to, and it'll show you kind of a preview of what it's about to do. Eventually you get really good at this and you just fly through it. You really don't have to look at the preview. You can pretty much just go 5 0 and 5 tab 0 enter and then kind of cruise through. But depending on how you kind of learn and how fast you learn, you might want to look at it and see how it's going. So this is one of the very simple ways to kind of draw a line. You know, just set yourself, and again, students tend to kind of crowd themselves up like this a little bit, and you don't have to, you know, just kind of roll your mouse. If you're rolling your mouse in, you can kind of notice you zoom in a little bit. You roll your mouse out, you zoom out. If you hold your middle mouse button down, you pan. So just with these few little measures here, you can kind of move around the drawing a little bit. So I like to zoom out a little bit, so I roll my mouse back a little bit, and I'm just going to make a 5 by 5 box real quick. So 5 tab 90 enter, and then I'm going to go in this direction, 5 tab 180 enter, and it already had it in there, so I didn't even have to put any 5 tab, and this would be 90 or 270 depending on what you want. And if you notice, it kind of locks you in. You can just click. You could have also clicked C there and closed it, but just for practice, we have this. So that's kind of one of the easier ways to draw just like a 5 by 5 box. And if you noticed, when I was drawing, it was automatically sort of locking me in on these positioning here. It is every 90 degrees. You kind of see this green line. That's called polar tracking. So let's say I wanted to lock every 45 degrees instead of every 90. So down here at the very bottom, it's kind of hard to see sometimes. In the bottom right hand corner, you'll notice this little circle with the angle symbol in there, and you'll hover over it and it'll say polar tracking, clear as day. If you click the little down arrow though, you can set what angles you want it to lock at. So if I select 45 here and go back into the command, now not only am I going to lock at 90, but every 45 degrees, you'll notice it locks. So by just using this method, ignoring hitting tab or the distances, what you could really do is if you had to draw a line at 45 degrees, a certain distance, just let it lock in this distance like that, and then type in the distance, and then hit enter. And it'll automatically kind of lock in that direction. I like to call this lines by direction. So if I wanted to create a quick diamond shape here, I could, just by kind of locking in every 45. Oops, I went a little too far. U enter will undo the last. So let me do it again here, 10. And then go back here, and then I'll do 10 again. And then escape gets you out of the command. Now escape will be your best friend. Escaping, you really only need to hit it twice to get out of most commands, but if you want to give it a few good slams, that's fine. I like to hit it a few more times, but it's kind of just my relief key. It's the first key that goes on any keyboard I own. So I have a quick 10 by 10 kind of diamond, technically a square, and then I have a quick 5 by 5 square here. So there was 2 different ways to draw lines. Again, you could turn this off, and then you can just draw by kind of just putting yourself in whatever. You know, I want to go 5 tab 90 tab. And then you notice I'm not getting any green lines. It's not locking me into any sort of deal. Now, also when drawing lines, if you were just going 0s and 90s and 180s and 270s, you could just turn ortho on, which is right here. Ortho will automatically keep you locked in that direction. So, for instance, if I wanted to draw a 5 by 5 square with ortho on, I can just go like this, 5, 5. Now notice, is my line exactly at 5? No, I'm dragging way far away from it, 5 and 5. Again, number one problem I see students have is they kind of keep, they're so zoomed in and they're so like trying to sit here and get it exactly at 5. It doesn't matter. If you drag it past, you can hit 5 tab and it's only going to go 5. Even though you're at 17, you know, or you're at 27 here, if you do 5, it only goes 5. So again, don't crowd yourself. Don't kind of get yourself backed into a corner. Keep yourself kind of zoomed out so you can kind of globally see everything around it. Because a lot of those items will actually kind of play a role in most things. All right, so, you know, getting back to here again. So again, there's a few different ways to draw lines. Those are the most popular ones, I feel. There was an old school method that you could do. If I turn off dynamic input, so there's this little customization button here, and it'll be cut off a little bit on the screen here. But you'll notice one of them in here is called dynamic input, and I'm going to turn it on. So pay attention over here. You'll see it pop on. There it is right there. So what that controls is when I go to the line command, see how this stuff that comes up next to my cursor? This is called dynamic input. I can turn that off, and now when I draw a line, if you notice, there's really nothing there. So back when this was the only way to draw something, you would basically start your line, you would hit at, then you would type in the distance, then you would hit the angle symbol, or less than, and then you'd hit 90 and hit enter. And that would send your cursor up 90. And the only reason I bring this up is because this is kind of the tried all true. It always works. And if you notice, again, I could be in any direction here. I can have my cursor all the way out here. I can say 5, angle 270, and it's going to go down. And then I can hit C, enter to close it if I want to cheat that last piece. So again, if you did not like working with dynamic input, which is this button right here, which puts all this stuff next to your cursor, sometimes, to be honest, this gets annoying. You can always turn it off using the setting down here. I'll go over, you'll see me probably touch base on these every single video almost, but just note, you know, this video is going to go over them probably in more detail than any of the other videos. So again, drawing lines and putting things in. So I'm going to draw another line now, except we're going to have one more problem here, is I want to make a line from one part of this line here. So I want to make sure it's attached. Now, you'll notice when I'm hovering over, I get these green squares appearing at the ends of the lines. Now, technically, these are also the intersections, I know, but for this matter, that little square means it's an endpoint. So the reason it's doing that is because of this button right here. This button here controls your O-snaps. So by clicking the little down arrow, you'll see everything that's automatically on. Now, you can also, if you don't like looking at that screen, if you click it here and you go to Object Snap Settings, you can kind of get an easier dialog box. To be honest, it's best to kind of get used to using right here. So if I wanted to go to the midpoint of this line, if you notice it's not on right now, the midpoint's going to look like a triangle. Oops, I kind of drew something real quick. Honestly, by selecting something like this and hitting your delete key, you can remove it out of there. There's other ways to do it, but the easiest one is just to select it and hit your delete key to remove a line you might have accidentally drawn. So I'm going to go back into here again. And again, I'm only getting my endpoints, so you can kind of see that. So I want to get a midpoint here. And I believe that's a triangle. So I'm going to select midpoint here. Now when you see, you'll notice that I get the triangle right there. So now I can go to the midpoint there. And then honestly, let's say I didn't want to use this at all. If I hold shift and right click, then I can go to the perpendicular point right here. So there's a few different ways to get to your O-snaps. You can set them to always on right here. Or when you go into the line command, or any command for the most part, and you want to go to a certain spot, when it asks you here to pick a first point, if you hold shift and right click, you can pull up your O-snaps this way. But do note, if I want to go to the endpoint here, and then the endpoint here, if without O-snaps on, I have to hold shift right click again and go to endpoint again. So really, if you're going to be doing multiple things, so shift right click, endpoint, shift right click, endpoint, if you notice it doesn't stay on, which is sometimes why having O-snaps on makes your life a little easier, because again, you can snap, snap. If you do not see this little green icon appearing, you're not snapping. Meaning, if I click here, I didn't obviously get to the midpoint there. But note, when I'm over here, obviously I'm nowhere near that endpoint, but it's snapping to it. So if I click right now, oops, sorry, got a little bit far away. So if I click once I'm close to it, it kind of snaps me in. And if I kind of go there, it kind of snaps me in again. Again, you don't have to be close. You just have to be close, I should say. Sorry about that. You got to be close. You don't have to be extremely accurate. Now, the only caveat to one of these is this tangent command. And I say this because sometimes you're going to get into more complex objects than 2 of these circles. Now, I'm not going to show you how to draw circles in this video. There'll be another video for it, but I just want to show you the tangent snap real quick. So if I'm drawing a line, and I hold shift and right click, and I go tangent, and I go shift and right click tangent, for this command here in particular, sometimes you have to get at least close or to the right side, meaning if I want to go tangent up here, I shouldn't be kind of selecting down there. So you kind of want to guesstimate onto where the tangent is, but obviously for this one it's much simpler. It's either up here or down there. So again, really quick, shift and right click pulls up your O snaps. You can use your O snaps right here, and again, these are for precise, accurate connections to other objects. Or you can, there's a few other ways to do it. If you want to go extremely old school and you're in the line command, you can just type in the word end and it'll snap to the end as well. And if you wanted to go to the midpoint, you can type in mid and go to the midpoint as well. It's kind of the old school ways of doing it, but it's all there. So that was the line command. Now, the line command is extremely similar to polylines. So here's the difference. If I draw a line and I click, 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 if you notice, each one of these segments is individualized. If I do the same thing using a polyline, click, 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 and then I select it, if you notice, it's one line. So this creates one continuous line with multiple segments, and this one creates multiple segments individualized, sort of in a way. So again, there's one other thing, the polyline too, that you might like, is within the polyline command, if you're drawing a line here and you hit A for arc, you can quickly select and go to an arc. Then you can either stay in the arc command or hit L for line and go back and forth. Note, it does not keep the last segment tangent, however, so if you were looking for that, it'd be a little bit more difficult. But again, A for arc, L for line when you're in the polyline command, and you can do some neat things. Other than that, most people will draw on the line command. I tend to draw more on the polyline command because when I'm drawing lines, sometimes it's curved lines, and I need to offset those lines, which will be another command in a later video. So again, just to recap, the line command, very simple and easy. Dynamic inputs on by default. So again, when you guys are drawing here, again, just pay attention to these two numbers, and you can hit tab to go between them. Okay, also, if you want to draw a line using polar coordinates, you can always turn this on, and then even with dynamic input on, you'll see it kind of locks itself in every 45 degrees. So that could also help you there. So again, multiple different ways to draw things here. You really just kind of have to kind of pick the one that works best for you. This is one way kind of as teachers we can kind of tell when students are teaching if you both drew the object completely identical in the identical command strings. It's really easy to tell if somebody plagiarized the drawing. So it's not worth trying to do that. It's very easy to tell because everybody's going to draw things a bit differently and in different places. Note, right now, I wasn't really drawing on a coordinate system. I was just kind of playing around, picking where I wanted to go. If in any books or anything you read, if it asks you to start at 0, 0, or 0, 7, or 0, 8, or whatever it may be, when you're in the command, the first thing it's going to ask you is where you want the point. So if I type in 0, 0, and hit enter, it'll put me right there. Or if I wanted to start at 2, 5, it'll put me there as well. So just remember your X and Y axes from geometry class. And as you get into more complex software, you start adding the Z axis as well. Although you can do it in here as well, just as fine. So again, that's how to draw lines and polylines. In the other video, we're going to go over circles, arcs, and fillets, and probably chamfer as well. So look forward to that video. This is the new line drawing. There's another one as well. Feel free to check out that one. But this is the newer, updated video for how to draw lines and polylines. Again, if you liked the video, subscribe. Give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, again, feel free to provide some constructive criticism. And as always, if you have any questions or need to know something else, or maybe this video just didn't cut it for you and you're missing something, feel free to comment below and let me know how I can improve it. Thank you.